hoping I will return to the scene of crime, to Detroit, to remake my vintage lens review video, because my efforts this week were hampered by a violent homeless man, followed by the incompetent response from the Detroit police. I feel utterly helpless against deadly thugs in Detroit, because the Detroit police are not doing their job. Where does the buck stop? Appoint me as a Detroit police chief. I would easily do a better job than whoever is presently in charge. I almost became an innate inanimate object this week in Detroit. A white homeless dude with a cigarette dangling out of his mouth crossed 6 lanes of Woodward Avenue to ask me for a light. I replied, "I have nothing for you." This simple rejection inflamed the vagrant, who verbally threatened me and then chased me back across the 6 lanes of Woodward Avenue with cars going by. I had to blindly cross it. What was my choice? Get beat up or cross this? That's all I had to do in that moment. I blindly crossed Woodward to try to save my life as he yelled threats against me. I called 911 and the operator said she would help. I'm like, oh, great. After she gave me, asked me all these questions that don't really matter. What's your number? What's your this? I'm like, I need help. When I asked when help would arrive, the 911 dispatcher said she didn't know when help would arrive because no police units were available. She said the Detroit Police Department was busy at the moment and that she desired to hang up the phone. I asked her to stay on the phone until help arrived. She stayed on the line for maybe a minute longer, and then she hung up on me without warning. There were 2 Detroit police vehicles with Detroit police inside of them in the area at the time, including one that was at the end of the same city block where I was both attacked and then called 911 for help. Yet, inexplicably, the Detroit 911 dispatcher told me no Detroit police units were available before hanging up on me. I could have died because of a Detroit 911 dispatcher hanging up on me. The violent threat was never arrested and remains at large. The fact that the violent bum threatened me at random and without police consequence, even though the Detroit police were requested, tells me he could attack me at random again and without fear of consequence, even with Detroit police officers nearby doing nothing useful, playing on their phone. I was walking by, and I didn't realize it till later because in the moment, you're just fearing for your life. You're just trying to get away from the danger. On my way up there, before the guy accosted me, I walked by a Detroit police van parked in front of the Little Caesars Arena with a black female police officer inside, playing on her phone, not even looking out, checking, making sure security's good. She was a city block away from where all that happened, and the 911 dispatcher said, "We don't have any units available." Get your eye on the ball here, ma'am. I imagine the Detroit Police Department would have been obligated to send a police car with a cop or 2 to the scene of my murder on the streets of Detroit if the dirty bum had succeeded in his murderous threats against me. Detroit Police Department, do not let your standards lower so much that you only send cops to stare at dead bodies after the victim has been hung up on by your 911 dispatcher. Does the Detroit Police Department have its own Crenshaw Williams?
A 911 operator arrested and charged after she allegedly hung up on dozens of callers.
Investigators say that between October 2015 and March 2016, Houston Emergency Center managers tracked thousands of dropped calls to a single 911 operator. This woman, 43-year-old Crenshaw Williams. Williams has been charged with deliberately hanging up on callers in 2 of those cases, including one involving an armed robbery that left a store owner dead.
Where the minivan is sitting right here by the house, that's where she fell.
Buster Pendley says Williams hung up on him too. That was early on the morning of March 1st. His wife was near death after a blood clot moved to her lungs.
She was gasping and I could feel her heart beating out of her chest, but I couldn't get a pulse.
Pendley says he was trying to perform CPR with one hand while calling 911 with the other.
The 911 operator answered the phone and she said, "This is Krishanda, may I help you?" I said, "Yes, my wife's passed out, I need an ambulance." She said, "Okay," and she hangs up on me.
Or worse yet, Is it the Detroit Police Department policy for 911 dispatchers to hang up on callers who are in fear of violence? Shame on the Detroit Police Department for their mishandling of their basic duties. President Trump, please send in your National Guard into Detroit to clean up the streets. My life depends on it. I just so happened to name this series Ryan Ellis Contra Mundum, take after Athanasius Contra Mundum, just because I derived my series title after history's most famous epitaph does not mean I need to die in the second episode. I don't want to be involved in a rumble in the jungle simply because Detroit thugs get to walk outside of their cages like a zoo peacock. The thug that attacked me called me white boy, which was very black-coded talk for a white man to use, which confused me. I wonder if my white attacker would not have attacked me if he wasn't so steeped in black culture. If you are a fellow conservative and would like to walk around dangerous Detroit with me to offset my peril, please reach out to me as soon as possible. Is a conservative in President Trump's America under house arrest from being able to safely visit the major city in his home state just because it is a leftist hellhole? For what reason other than the race car grift must it be taken for granted that the ghetto areas of America are impenetrable fortresses that United States law enforcement, both local, state, and federal, cannot bring to heel in short order? The solution to the problem is as moral as it is simple as it is painful on the ear. In a word, separation. Hello, this is Ryan Ellis, and I am the greatest living street photographer in all of Detroit. The second greatest street photographer in the history of Detroit, second only to Bill Rauhauser, the Dean of Detroit Photography. And I'm coming to you today live from here in downtown Detroit, or I guess I'm one street over from Greektown, so we'll call it Greek Downtown. And this is the second edition, the second episode of Ryan Ellis Contra Mundum. You know, Athanasius Contra Mundum, Athanasius against the world. It's the most famous epitaph of all time, a man who lived not quite 2,000 years ago. Well, I'm appropriating that because it kind of sounds Ryan Ellis Contra Mundum, Athanasius Contra Mundum, Ryan Ellis against the world. I think of an inversion of Mark 8:38, you know, how it says, for what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? The next verse, 8:39, for what can a man trade for his soul? And if you invert 8:38 of the book of Mark, what does it profit a man if he gives up the whole world and gains his own soul? Eternal life in heaven. That's what all of you watching this, turn from your sins, repent of your sins, and turn to Jesus, who is God as your Lord and Savior. There is no other way to heaven but through Jesus, and any other way you take will lead invariably, inevitably, 100% to hell. Come to Jesus. Today, leading up to today, this week, I was deathly afraid I would be killed for doing this again. I received quite a bit of a cold treatment last week. And oh, by the way, the half-staff flag in front of the Blue Cross Blue Shield building, just let me note that a week after the death, the murder of Charlie Kirk, a little over a week, the Blue Cross Blue Shield building still has their flag at half-staff. And last week, because the executive order only extended till last Sunday, or a week from yesterday, but I could have sworn I saw the Detroit Historical Museum, which is right by the Detroit Institute of Art and Detroit Public Library. Those two other buildings had it at half-staff, but the Detroit Historical Museum, which I assume is not a federal building, didn't honor Charlie Kirk's memory. It appears. But I was deathly afraid I'd be killed, murdered by some leftist wacko or ghetto thug. It's Detroit after all. But a strange peace washed over me a couple days ago when I went on social media and saw my leftist friends calling Charlie Kirk a Nazi and saying the most abhorrent things about this man who was murdered, who was assassinated. So all I can assume is that if I get killed by one of these leftist nut jobs who hate the MAGA hat, and people say, oh, Ryan was a conservative, all those same friends would do an Irish jig on my grave. So if they're gonna come after me regardless, I might as well wear the hat. You know, I have almost everything to lose by doing this, but what do I have to gain? One thing is my dignity. So I'm wearing the hat loud and proud. And this is a lens review video after all. It's taken me a few minutes to get to that fact. I'm shooting with a 1965 or 64, I can't really tell. I was looking at the serial number. I initially thought it was 64, but it might be 65. Nikkor S35mm f2.8 maximum aperture. Now this is a bit of a different lens. Now this lens I got for, unfortunately, for $40. The lady wanted 70. I said no. I said, how about 40? She's like, no. And I talked to her for 5 weeks. Once a week I would send an email because she's on Craigslist, and I said, hey, there are lenses that have been up for years. I said, no one's even talking about this lens. Let's just do 40 and call it a day. Because she advertised this as an immaculate lens. No scratches, no issues, great aperture. And so finally I bit the bullet. I said, you know what, 50. Because I thought this is going to be a good lens. I get there, and the lens is just trash. It's got the scratches, it's not mounting correctly, but I think in the back of my head, as I'm telling her this lens is garbage, I'm like, oh, I'll just get home, wipe it off, and it'll be fine. We compromise at $40. I get home, I take these isopropyl alcohol lens wipes I got for free from a friend, wipe it down, get all the dirt off, mount it to my camera. The 35 was hazy, so I got her to bring down the price, and I thought, well, I can make this immaculate, and I bit off a little more than I could chew, we'll just say. This doesn't take perfect pictures by any means, but the very weakness it has is also, in certain circumstances, a strength, because you're never gonna see someone take a vintage lens, this is a 1965 lens, and scratch it up to get that hazy look. This lens is just covered in hundreds of scratches, and don't blame me. This is from the previous owner. They did not treat this well. I assume this was in a junk drawer for the last 51 years. So you're only going to find it if it's already been done naturally, almost like beach glass being naturally polished by the sand and the waves, the friction over years. This has sort of, it's like a beach glass lens in a way. It takes sort of like these hazy pictures because all those little scratches, when the light hits it, those scratches light up like a prism and kind of wash over the whole image. So it's never quite clear. But again, it's if you like it, you love it. If you don't, you never will, perhaps. Maybe you grow to like it over time. I certainly have grown to like it over time. And I'm going to use it today, hopefully to good effect. Like I said, I would love to try to get 20 pictures. I don't know if that's going to happen. I would accept getting 10 pictures, but all the more so, sadly, I would accept getting 5 because, you know, it seems people don't like the hat. But see, I'm trying to inoculate the people of Detroit who hate this hat against hating it by occupying space. You know, because I'm a regular guy, I'm a good person, I'm a decent human being, and I should be allowed to not be accosted for wearing a hat. There are two sides, you know, Democrat, Republican. Why does one have to be demonized? Well, I take that back. The demon rats, I call them. So, but you know, I'm on the correct side. I'll put it that way. I almost forgot to add, you may have noticed, I don't have on the typical camera strap today. I have a bungee cord. I left my camera strap at home, praise God. The legendary Lee Kennedy, I met with him earlier today and we walked around the city. You could see a slideshow right here of us going around. And I told him, I said, you know, be on the lookout for a rope. It's almost like that Norm Macdonald joke, you know, got to go to the, you know, when you realize everything you ever believed was wrong, the first thing you got to do is go to the rope store. I kept saying it to myself, I got to find a rope store so I can get a length of rope to put around the outside of my neck, not the inside, you know. But this bungee cord is kind of strangling me because the weight centers the weight, but it's better than holding it. So hopefully I don't drop this camera. I'm deathly afraid of dropping my camera because I did that just over a year ago to my D800 after I interviewed a senatorial candidate on the steps of Michigan's Capitol building. Don't want that to happen again. Take a picture of this lady's cat ear helmet. Never seen that before. Okay. I'm using a 1965 35mm lens that was in someone's junk drawer for 50 years, so it's all scratched up, so it takes very odd pictures. I'm sure it is. This is a very unique lens. It's all scratched up, so so it's like kind of hazy. I'm gonna take this gentleman's picture. And after the whole Charlie Kirk thing, I gotta show up because they hate me. The thing is, they're gonna hate me no matter what. I might as well wear the hat and just be out with it, you know? Like why hide? And by the way, I'm gonna lose friends doing this. I've been doing this almost 10 years. I'm gonna take a picture of this gentleman with his bike here. It's a 1965 35mm lens. Oh, they look cool. Let's do one more, just a view. Woo! Better to drop this than that. Here, I'm gonna put. So that's 3 down, 7 to go. Maybe I'll go for 20. I'm going pretty fast here in downtown. I really didn't expect this. I'm getting followed right now by a guy. He asked for a light and I said I got nothing for you. Now he's following me. Stay the f*** away from me. Stay the f*** away. F*** off. Hey, stay the f*** away from me. Stay the f*** away. I'm not here to talk to you.
Okay.
Stay the f*** away.
Sorry. Say sorry. And I won't beat your ass. I said say sorry. Get me off camera. Go eat that or I'm gonna kill you right now.
Don't you f***ing threaten me, brother.
Say sorry. Hey, that's that.
Man. Well, I got 3 shots today. I might call it. I just called 911 and they said, we don't have enough free units. I said, what's the ETA? She said, I don't know. And then she said, do you need anything else? I said, yeah. I said, I need someone to talk. At the very least, talk to this vagrant. He's just a city block ahead of me right now. I said, at the very least, because, you know, if I go forward and keep going on with my day, and he sees me but I don't see him, he's gonna sucker punch me. Or if I come back next week and he sees me but I don't see him, he's gonna sucker punch me. And there he is, way out. You saw him on video. He asked me to apologize to him. I apologized, so I don't want to get beat up. See, now what am I gonna do? What am I supposed to do? There he is ahead of me. Should I just go forward and wait for the guy to beat me up? Do you know where you're at? He said to me. Called me white boy. He's white. We're both white. Why are you calling me white? We're both white. Stating the obvious. All right, well, literally the cops are not gonna help. The cops hung up on me. 911 hung up on me because they don't have enough police here. I was just saying it last week. We don't have enough police, and the ones we do have don't do their job because, okay, you know what? Now's the time to say it. I'm just gonna say it. I'm not gonna name names. But a few years ago, I'm just gonna go home now. The cops are doing nothing. I could still see the guy. He's just pacing back and forth, city block on the other side of the street. A few years ago, the whole reason I started doing camera videos was because I was a teacher, a digital photography teacher and culinary arts at a local school. and I made teaching videos for the photography aspect. I keep checking my 6 to see if the guy's following me. And one time, one day, one week, I made a teaching video in the city. Hello, my tyros. Today, we're gonna have a coz about available light photography. That's when the light provided to you comes from God or man. Either the sun or artificial light illuminates the locale you find yourself in, with you providing none of the light on your own. The key to available light. And less than an hour after I left, someone was almost murdered. Actually, a few people were almost murdered. The one who was most almost murdered went into a coma, and he may have died. I didn't have the heart to check how it you know, ended up for him. But yeah, I just got accosted, and the Detroit police of nowhere. More than 5 years ago, there were 2 rival gangs that were let out of jail on the same day, members of 2 rival gangs. And their gangs were, if you wear one color or the other color, it's bad news for you. Well, just so happens on that same day, a guy took his little sister out for her birthday to, at the time it was Greektown Casino, now it's Hollywood Casino, right there in the heart of Greektown. And you know, with your birthday, so you wear like a nice outfit for your birthday, especially a lady. And whatever color she was wearing happened to be the wrong color for one of the 2 rival gangs that were let out on that fateful day. And there is an officer who saw all of the storm brewing. People were kind of stepping up to him, and from these 2 rival gangs. And instead of do his job, there was a robbery around the corner at a local business, and he ran to that scene. He wasn't needed there, put his name on the paperwork so that he was there instead of on duty where he was stationed. While he shirked from his duty, abandoned his position, his post, these 2 rival gangs, their froth bubbled over into outright evil violence. They started beating up the girl. The brother stepped in. They curb stomped him, where they kicked his head into the curb, put him into a coma, which I never know if he got out of. Another good Samaritan stepped in, a guy with dreadlocks, probably a black guy. And someone must have been on uppers, like PCP or something, because the story I heard was that someone, and okay, if you are grossed out easily, skip ahead, because what I'm about to say is gross. Someone grabbed the guy by his dreadlocks, swung him around like a rag doll, until the dreadlocks they're holding on to were in their hand and the guy had flung away. Here's the gross part, so skip ahead from this word I'm about to say. They scalped him. And that's in a relatively good side of town. So this is a pretty bad side of town. I was in Midtown where that just happened. So yeah, that was years ago, and I very strongly say the city was safer then. So yeah, I wanted to do more today, but that knocked the wind out of me. I had to call 911 today, and they couldn't help me, and they ended up hanging up the phone on me. And I even asked her, I said, "Ma'am, I don't feel safe, could you stay on the line?" "Oh, no problem." About a minute later, she just, without warning, hangs up the phone on me. Just despicable, city of Detroit, you're despicable. The only reason I didn't get beat up today was I ran from him, and there was a group of people, and it was like a comic where like Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny, like they're running around the tree and they're always on the other side of the tree. I just kept running circles around this crowd of people when he chased me. And it was so funny because it was a bunch of black guys and he's a white guy, and they're like, "Take this somewhere else." But fortunately they didn't push me away, because if they had pushed me away I would have been beaten to a pulp by the druggie. City of Detroit Police Department, Shame on you people. If I had been beaten to a bloody pulp, like I said at the beginning of this video, leftists would have done an Irish jig on my grave. And the Detroit cops, you guys are good for nothing. I called you, I just got the phone, you guys hung up on me. You're good for nothing, Detroit police. Good for nothing. I remember I used to tell, and here, okay, I gotta get specific. You know, I hold these things in, but now's the time. I could have been killed not an hour ago. And Detroit police, I even called you guys. I had you on speed dial, or 911, it's pretty quick. Where were you? Where were you, Detroit police? Am I really not allowed to walk around? And it wasn't even the hat. It was the fact that a guy wanted to light for a cigarette. Why, Detroit? Why, city of Detroit? I just want to make beautiful art and change the world for the better, be the change I wish to see in the world. Maybe I'll run for local elected office next, but I don't have the money for that, so this is the next best thing. So, but I'm sorry, I'm just rambling, but shameful. Oh, so there's the second thing. I used to tell Detroit cops about, and I had evidence of, I saw it on camera, and they would ignore me, act like I said nothing. And I don't want to get too specific, but the problem got immeasurably worse that I was pointing out to the Detroit police. And they did nothing the whole time to prevent it. It was totally preventable. It wasn't my job to prevent it. It was they're the law enforcement officers. And they've got their eye off the ball. They need to refocus themselves. I'm putting it very graciously. They need to have their eye elsewhere. I hate this. I wanted to make a video today. It took a lot of courage to come out to the city, and sure enough I got accosted, but not even for the reason I expected. It was just a homeless vagrant, ghetto thugs in Detroit. I guess I did say it at the beginning, but day of days it should happen on today. Years ago I made what I thought was going to be my last teaching series. In fact, I titled it The Final Year, for I was convinced I wouldn't make it through the year alive. And I had my good friend Mr. O to the L assisting me that day, and we were in the D800 cut, which is a reefer train line that used to carry reefer cars, full of bananas and other, potatoes, produce. And I was doing a teaching series down there in the D800 cut when my assistant noticed that off in the distance, beyond where we were shooting, there is a kid shaking like a leaf on the ground, having an apparent massive seizure. So instead of going on with what we were originally there to do, there are little red emergency kiosks every 50 feet or so down there and across the Riverwalk. If you have an emergency, it connects right to the Detroit police. Well, I hit the button, nothing happened. I went to the next one, nothing happened. And so there is an ambulance going by, and I flagged it down, and it rescued the kid. I never saw the kid again, but they took him away to the hospital. I'll never forget laughing, like, oh yeah, great. Now good time to find out that these emergency kiosks that you press for the Detroit police go nowhere. And that was more than 5 years ago. And now today, in September of 2025, you call 911 in Detroit, literally a guy was chasing me, trying to kill me.
Go eat that or I'm gonna kill you.
I was videoing it for, evidence of my safety, his word against mine. Well, the video doesn't lie. And I stopped the video so I can make the call. And they said, and that's the funny thing, she said, we'll have someone out there. And she didn't tell me, oh, we don't have anyone to send out there. I had to ask her. I said, when will they be out here? She said, oh, there is no estimated time of arrival because we don't have anyone to send. I gave him the cross streets. I even told him where the guy was. I said, I'm more concerned about him. He's a threat. He's a menace to society. The Detroit police are good for nothing, If I'm out there, upstanding citizen, and I fear for my life, I call the cops here in Detroit, in Midtown Detroit, and they can't do a thing? Why are we paying their taxes? Why do they even exist? I don't know whoever the police chief of Detroit is, but shame on you. I don't know whoever the mayor, Mike Duggan, I don't keep track of that stuff because they're always demon rats anyways. They're always corrupt anyways. It's been bad for as long as I've been alive here, so what's the point? But shame on whoever is in leadership right now. I could have been killed today, all because you guys are corrupt. Really? You can't send cops out here? President Donald Trump, please send the National Guard to Detroit because the Detroit police aren't worth. I'll never swear, but for today, I could have died, but the Detroit police aren't worth it here in Detroit. You call them and they say, we can't come and help you. You call them, they say, we don't have anyone to help you. President Trump, come to Detroit, clean up these streets, fix this place, it's messed up. I came here today to make beautiful art. I'm leaving here today in fear for my life. It's sad. I said at the beginning of this video, a strange peace washed over me. That at least the people who hate me and want me dead are evil. So at least I know if they kill me, I'm the good guy and they're the bad guy. Well, I almost got killed by a bad guy today, and I'll tell you, put yourself in my shoes, or I'll put you in there for you. It's not a good feeling. And for the Detroit police to be MIA, hang up the phone on me? You serious, guys? President Trump, attention, President Trump, come to Detroit. Send your National Guard here, clean up the city, clean up these streets. We have too many thugs, too many vagrants. I shouldn't be afraid to walk down the street, and it wasn't even the hat. It was just a regular, run-of-the-mill vagrant just being bad. I shouldn't have to worry about that. Shameful. President Trump, please, we need your help. Please send your National Guard to Detroit. Please, we need you. The city, I almost died today. I almost got killed today. Hey, stay the away from me! Stay the away! I called the Detroit police. The Detroit police are nowhere. You call 911, the Detroit police are nowhere. Good for nothing. Oh, we'll send a unit right over there. Okay, where's the unit? Where's the unit? Do you have an ETA? Oh no, we don't have an ETA. Why? Because we don't have anyone to help you. What good are the police if they're not there? Oh, there's a cop car. Could they have sent him? There's a cop car. Could they have sent him to help me? Anybody? Am I not good enough for the Detroit police to help me? You know, there's another complaint about the Detroit police. So one street over from where I'm walking right now, maybe a little over a year ago, I saw two homeless girls sleeping on the street. I asked this story because whenever I see a homeless woman, I feel bad for her. Whenever I see a homeless minor, I feel bad for them. A homeless man, different thing. And I found out one of the two women was a minor. She was 17 years old. The other one was an adult. And so I told her, I said, I'm a guy, you're a gal. There's nothing I can really do to help you. But maybe there's like a service, like a social service that can help you, being that you're a minor. And she said, oh, I don't know.
She never knows.
I know, is that the truth?
That's right.
And that guy's just crazy. It's fun. See, that's the good side of Detroit that I'm okay with. Be silly like that, but don't like beat someone up. But so I find a Detroit cop. I explained to him. I said, hey, there's this person. They're in a vulnerable situation. In fact, I think where they were was a block away from where 5 people had been shot and killed, maybe the week prior or 2 weeks prior. It was a bad area. People were being shot and killed there. And she's a woman. She's going to get worse, you know. There are some fates worse than death, as they say. And so I go to this cop, and he gives me the 3rd degree. He's like, well, what's your name? What's the information? He starts grilling me. I said, it doesn't matter about me. Look into the unfortunate case of this young woman. And I saw her the next week. I asked her, did anyone come talk to you? No. Then I found out, because I asked around, because the Detroit police are good for nothing. I said, where can homeless people go and find protection? And someone who I trusted told me, oh, the best place, and in fact, it's so good, it's a secret. Like because if more people knew, bad people could go in there and do bad things. So there's like the secret place where homeless women can go to here in Detroit. And I told this girl about it. I went and I found her. I was so excited. I said, I got the perfect solution for you. And she's like, oh, I know about that place. I don't want to go. And what I eventually realized was she was probably on some sort of drug and didn't want to get off it. She was addicted to something, it seemed like. She had gotten out of a foster home, didn't have parents, and the only person she had was her foster sister, who wasn't even related to her. That was the other girl with her. They only had each other, and it broke my heart. Well, what are you gonna do? And so, yeah, Detroit police, good for nothing. I go to them about a homeless person needing help. They don't do anything. I wasn't there, but they shirked their duty a few years ago when gangbangers were out and putting people into a coma. And then I used to go to Detroit police all the time, say, hey, this is happening, that's happening. They wouldn't do jack about it. And you know what the funny thing is? I bet I'm gonna be harassed by the Detroit police. That's the irony, is that they don't wanna do their job, but they wanna maybe harass the person pointing out that they're not doing their job. But I'm frustrated. What am I supposed to do? Die? Silently? Go down quietly without saying what the truth is? I'm already wearing the truth on my head. Let me just say it out of my mouth while I'm at it. I'm brokenhearted. I already do not love this city for its corruption, and I'm trying to learn to appreciate it almost 10 years in, but boy is it hard, and today is a valid reason why it's so difficult. Detroit police, corrupt, inept at least.